we have something very, very important to discuss: wealth creation, portfolio management, mortgages, golden visas, and leveraging. Are you limiting yourself to the purchase of that one property, or do you have a bigger goal of 5, 7, 10 properties? What is the game plan? I always ask people, boss, what's the bigger picture?
Educate our audience that in the financial aspects and the matters, you should go more towards the professional side rather
Always.
than going towards your bloodline.
Did you go to a professional? No. How did you select this property? Because my uncle bought it. His friend advised him. Who's his friend? His friend has some other business. Has he done real estate? No, he doesn't even have a property of his own.
So many people contact the consultants for the information regarding any property. So how educate it is for the consultant to ask for their passport copy before sharing any information.
Okay, this is what I call a CBM.
What is CBM?
Confidence building measure. If a person is not ready to share their passport copy with you, do you think that person is ever going to buy a property from you? You can always go to a developer and buy something directly from them. There's nobody stopping you. But what is the end result that you want to achieve? Hi, welcome to another episode of The Break Bars. Today, we have something very, very important to discuss, and that is surrounded by wealth generation, wealth creation, portfolio management, mortgages, golden visas, and leveraging. All this cannot be encompassed by one session. So we will have a couple of sessions on this, whereby one by one, we are going to address all these things and then have some answers for you. In the meantime, if you have any particular questions pertaining to all these topics, feel free to shoot them to us. We'll try our level best to give you the pertinent answers to that. With that, let's dive into the discussion.
So everybody see Dubai as basically a very right place for the investment, a very growing place. So talking about that, the non-resident who are residing uh, away from Dubai, maybe in other part of the countries, yeah. So if they want to come in Dubai, want to make some investment or want to get a residency, uh, they need some documents, they need some valuables which shows that okay, they can have their own setup over here to start with the bank account. So can they have a bank account here in Dubai?
So the first step is that when they're contemplating, I would start with the point that they need to go to a consultant. It is of paramount importance that you put the vertebra straight to start with. You cannot just go directly. Why can't you go to a developer directly and buy a property and then later on come to this conclusion, oh, I bought this and I had the idea of actually doing this with this, but nobody guided me. So the first step is,
But many people are doing the same thing, which we talked about, like which you actually talked about right now. That
So-
okay,
a
like
lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
I completely agree. You see, if you can always go to a developer and buy something directly from them. There's nobody stopping you.
yes.
But what is the end result that you want to achieve? Are you limiting yourself to the purchase of that one property? Or do you have a bigger goal of, I'm going to buy subsequently 5, 7, 10 properties in Dubai and I'm going to settle over a period of 3 to 5 years in Dubai? If that is your game and that is your end game, I wouldn't call it end game, I would say that is your endeavor. Then the system, processes, procedures that you need to put in place are of paramount importance, and you cannot just go helter-skelter that I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to buy this. What is the game plan? I always ask people, boss, what's the bigger picture? If you don't have that bigger picture, then you'll have to tweak that model later on. Having 2-3 properties under your name and then starting that process is something that you can do, but not recommended. You should do it from day one. So now coming back to your point, can a non-resident have a bank account? The answer is yes, they can have a savings account.
Okay.
They can open a savings account, not a current account, because for a current account, you need to have salary coming in the UAE, and that's why that is a current account. But a non-resident can always have a savings account, and that is the first step they need to take in order to embark on the journey of wealth creation.
All right. So let's suppose there's a person who has different nationality and working at a different state, right, in a different country, and wants to have a bank account over here. So what are the requirements for that person?
Well, anybody who's living anywhere in the world, they can have a non-resident bank account. They need to have 6 months bank statement
All right.
from wherever they're residing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If they're getting their salaries, if they're getting their, lot of investors are not salary based. Whatever they are, they have businesses running. So that means that a particular sum is being deposited in their account every month, right? So for 6 months, they need to have a bank statement.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely need their passport copy to be submitted. Then they need proof of residency. That means they would either have a passport from that country or a resident visa from that country, and they would need to establish the proof of residency. That means any utility bills under their own name, at least 1 to 2 bills. That is a fundamental requirement, that they need to have these bills. They need to have 6 months bank statement showing that they're getting an amount over time in that account, and that's about it.
Is it the same for some salaried person or the person who is running another business in another country?
No, for salary, definitely a salary is depositing in their account. So they
Okay.
can have that salary certificate, they can have whatever you can get. So you can have a salary certificate in addition to the bank statement, because the salary certificate is going to correlate with your bank statement. And I'm getting X amount of salary, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. For example, hypothetically speaking, I'm getting $20,000 every month. This is my salary certificate. This is my experience letter from my organization. And that is being correlated by the amount that is being deposited in that bank in your country. So
Okay.
you'll have 6 months bank statement, proof of residency, utility bills, electricity bills, telephone bills, anything which is under your name, so that we can establish that yes, you are a resident of that area or that country.
It means more the merrier. More documents you have.
It's not that it's not that you overpower anybody like with so many documents. You're not trying to supply too many documents. It's very simplified process. Bank statement, your proof of residency, that is it. And your bills. 2 bills are enough. 1 to 2 bills are enough.
And this checklist is provided by the banks.
So you have financial consultants and you have real estate consultants. If you're planning to purchase a property, you're going to talk to a real estate consultant and you say, I'm residing in, for example, France, and I need to purchase a property. Please guide me accordingly. Because then, even if you're buying an off-plan property, then subsequently, or you're buying a ready property, subsequently, you will need a bank account here. So if I'm that person and they come to me, I tell them, you're residing in France, or you're residing in Portugal, or you're residing in any other part of the world, you're residing in Canada, and you need to come here and you need to purchase this property. So the first and foremost thing I would say is, in parallel in seeking that property that you're looking for, establish a bank account. That will also establish the credibility of that investor as well.
I really like your emphasis on hiring a consultant, specifically the mortgage consultant or the real estate consultant, because the whole world, most of the part is basically a very close knitted cultural thing. Like they are very closely related to the family. Like they said that
So is
blood.
UAE.
Yeah,
So is
so is
UAE.
so is UAE. So blood is thicker than the water, and they go to the family and the relatives.
No, you see, I have a serious disagreement in that. So, that's a very perfect example what you've quoted just now, of how half-cooked information is actually leading you away from the solution. anything which is a misinformation or it's not the actual truth will lead you. For example, you just said blood is thicker than water. That
Yes.
to me means that the relationships that you have, the blood relationships, are always going to supersede your worldly relationships, your friend circle, or any your acquaintances, or the people that you choose to befriend in this world, right?
Yes.
Now, the actual phrase is blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. That means that the relationships at times, I'm not generalizing it, at times the relationships that you selectively, cognizantly going ahead and form in this world are going to stick with you more than some of your blood relatives that you have no other choice but you are in that family and you have to bear with them. So again,
So are
coming
we
back to
trying
this
to
point.
educate our audience that in the financial aspects and the matters, you should be, go more towards the professional side rather than
Always,
going
always.
towards your bloodline?
Always, I bought this property because my uncles, aunts, fathers, cousin selected this property, and now I'm in a fix. So go and ask that uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to a professional? No. How did you select this property? Because my uncle bought it.
Yes.
What experience? No, his friend advised him. Who's his friend? His friend has some other business. Has he done real estate? No, he doesn't even have a property of his own. So he has never been in that process. He saw some advertisement that he really liked and he advised this gentleman, and this gentleman bought on his recommendation, and no homework was done. Now you're cursing Dubai real estate, or you're talking about, oh, Dubai, this happened to me. That's totally incorrect. But that's their choice. So always go to professionals.
Okay, coming back to the topic.
Yep.
We were talking about the bank processes.
By the way, the
Yeah.
bank processes, they can only have a physical account, no digital accounts like Wise
Yeah,
or
that
any
was
other
my
account.
question, because that digital account is very popular these days in UAE. So
Those digital
people are
accounts
more like,
basically
yeah.
towards they are aimed towards the residents in order to facilitate the residents
Okay.
who have to do frequent transactions within the country or within Dubai. Those accounts are basically tailor-made for them.
Okay.
For a non-resident, savings account. Write it down, memorize it, guide people accordingly. Savings account is the way to go.
All right. So since UAE government is very facilitating for the residents and the non-residents in all this process of getting into UAE because of the vision, how banks are facilitating the non-residents for all these processes?
But the banks want more people to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They would welcome anybody with the right set of documents. We have AML also processes procedures in place. So anybody who wants to come in should submit their documents. They have to go through the bank process. It has to be vetted by the central bank, and their accounts can be opened within, I think, 7 to 10 working days.
So you mean any non-resident can get mortgage or leveraging?
Yeah, mortgage leveraging is something else. Let's keep leveraging at side for now.
All
So
right.
you're
Let's stick
diving
with
into
the.
another domain.
Okay.
So let's talk about mortgages.
All right.
So the bank account processes are clear.
Mm-hmm.
We keep it aside. Now, for the mortgages now, you can get a non-resident can get a mortgage. That's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Their bank accounts are here. They can apply for mortgage. Now, mortgages are targeted at two things: a ready property and an off-plan property. So if they're
Right.
going for a ready property, yes, they can get a mortgage. I have my clients who are based across the globe. However, the interest rates are high because of the exposure. For a resident, the exposure is less. So I cannot give you a specific number of this is the percentage that they are going to get, because it depends on case to case basis, based on your profile, where you are based, how much salary you're drawing, what kind of taxes are you paying, what kinds of liabilities have you incurred over a period of time. Based on those factors, you will get a percentage of whatever is applicable to you. But yes, for ready properties and for off-plan properties, a non-resident can get a mortgage. For a ready property, it's very simple. They would come, they would go apply for that mortgage. The bank will do the valuation, everything would be done, and then they would get a certain percentage of the total value based on their profile. And for the off plan, at the time of handover, they can get, because most of the properties are being given at 60-40 payment plans. So that means that 40% that is supposed to be given at the time of handover. So it depends. Couple of developers like MR, there's 60-40 payment plans.
Yes.
For DMAC, at times there is payment plan at the end of the completion of the project. You have to give 25%. There are 20% payment plans as well, 80-20. There are post-completion payment plans as well. Based on whatever payment plan you have, when the property is near completion, you can go and apply and you'll get a mortgage on that.
Okay, okay. A very basic question. What about the cash inflow in the savings account to get a mortgage of any property?
So cash inflow is going to be done through your parent bank account wherever you are located. The reason for opening a bank account is you can make one-off payment directly to the developer. You can make more payments, but it's always better to start building a portfolio.
Yes.
Start building your credit history in this country if you're considering it for a longer period of time. You see, there's a thing called AECB report, Al Ittihad
Yes.
Bureau Credit Report.
Definitely.
So we're going to talk about that later on, because that's a very, very important topic. People miss out on that and people lose big money on that. That's a thing
Because
we're
of
going to-
ACB scores, they can get more.
if the scoring is, so I think 680 to 720, 730 is a very good score. Not excellent, but very good score. We can talk about those scorings later, but you need to have a good score if you want that. But the basic criteria here is that you need to start building your credit history in this country. So from you, how are you going to transfer funds? You're going to have a bank transfer done from your parent country to Dubai. You'll open a bank account and start sending funds from there. And the basis of transferring those funds is going to be the property purchase that you're going to do. Every developer, every credible developer, and I would say 99.999% developers, I haven't seen any developer in UAE who doesn't have an escrow account linked to that project. If that escrow account is not there, boss, run away from there. Don't invest in that project if you don't have an escrow account. If you have an escrow account, the best course of action is the first down payment that you have to do, you can do through a payment link, which will go directly to that escrow account. But for subsequent payments, now we have developers like even DMAC and other developers as well. We can talk about Danube as well. So they have a 1% payment plan. So every time you are going to have a transfer from your parent country, and that, it becomes cumbersome. So it's better that you transfer funds here, and then it's a click of a button. You can do it remotely while operating those accounts through your phone, and you can send those funds. You can have payment links established.
What do you suggest to the non-residents that how they can strategize the whole process of coming to UAE?
Talk to a consultant. I'm again and again emphasizing that point. What do you want to do? You want to buy one property, that's it, perfectly fine. Or you want to, this is going to be, you're just testing the waters right now. That's the first property I'm going to buy. I have a plan, if everything goes well, to buy 7 more. And are they going to be under my name? Am I going to establish a company over here? For example, I'll give you a very good example of this. You can have a Jabsa company, Jabal Ali Free Zone company. Jabsa companies are just companies. There are a segment of companies that are basically the owners of the properties. and you have the title of that company. So you form a company in JAVSA, and if you want to buy multiple properties, then you can buy multiple properties under that company name. So talk to a consultant what actually you want to do. Based on your requirement, they would suggest a solution. Later on, you say, I bought 4 properties. Now, I need to buy a 5th one. I'm short of funds. At that time, leveraging comes. So, leveraging means that you've already purchased the properties under you. You don't have any liabilities on that properties.
Right.
That means there is no mortgage involved till then. And you go to the bank and you say, I want to get these properties on leverage. So that means you go to the bank, you get the properties valuated, the current market rate,
All right.
you'll get the valuation report, and based on the profile and based on the properties and a lot of other things, you can get from 20% to 45% of the leveraging amount.
It means
That the bank will give you, yes, this is your property, we will take this and we will give you this much money for you to purchase another property. So the investment that you have made in that property is going to generate more revenue for you in order to buy and build your portfolio and expand your portfolio.
But since you suggested in the initial discussion that anybody who wants to start these things should start conservatively, should not put so many investors in so many places.
No, I
so
never
many
said that.
places.
I never
All
said that.
right.
You can go all guns blazing. I mean, Dubai I consider as the most safest place to invest. So if you have, you see, you have $10 million sitting in the bank.
Okay.
What is that generating for you? You want to invest in property. I wouldn't say invest in 1 million and wait for 5 years or 3 years, because if you invest 1 million in an off-plan project and wait for 3 years, look at the capital appreciation you're getting within that 3 years. Now, I don't know which country are you coming from. For example, if you're coming from countries where dollar is not pegged with their local currency, like in Dubai, UAE, dollar is pegged with dirham. That means there is no fluctuation. Consider a person coming from, hypothetically, Pakistan.
Okay.
Now, dollar is not pegged with Pakistani rupees. That means there is a fluctuation in the market. The fluctuation in the rupee value, Pak rupee value.
Okay.
Based on that, if you wait for 3 years,
Hmm.
you can see the disparity. You can see the amount of money that you're going to lose just for waiting. So if you have $10 million available, I would say buy one now, go through the process, 2nd month, 3rd month, 4th month, start building that portfolio. Put that money to use. Do not wait, because the banks are not offering you anything, and you can build your portfolio and then use the local banks to leverage and build more on that. I know
This
for,
is
for
very
a, for a
plus
new,
plus. This is all very plus plus. There must be some risk involved in leveraging as well. What are those?
risks involved is if you have not selected a right project to leverage, that means then real estate consultant comes in. You see, you have selected a project. If that project stalls, you're paying your mortgage because you have leveraged your properties. So you're paying a mortgage on that. Now you're paying and your property is not, for example, if the project was supposed to be ready in 3 years and the project takes 6 years to get ready, or the project stalls, then you're paying a mortgage and this is not generating any income. So the purpose of leveraging basically is to enhance your portfolio, whereby you can generate more income, not less.
Okay.
So selection of projects for that is of paramount importance, and if you've not done that homework properly, then you're gone.
So, can you explain any key metrics for the leveraging?
Key metrics for leveraging is it's not a very cookie cutter solution,
All right.
because, for example, somebody comes, I don't know their liabilities, I don't know
it.
what kind of properties they have. That's what I said, based on their properties, 24, 25 to 50% or 40%. It depends. You see, banks and financial institutions are very flexible. They would like to give money to people. However, they need to do their due diligence and they need to mitigate the risk. Nothing is risk averse. Anything that you go out and do is not risk averse. However, risk mitigation is there. So you have to minimize that risk. When you minimize that risk, everything falls into place. But every individual has a different set. You have different properties. For example, if you're a resident, then your risk, how many credit cards do you have? What kind of car loans do you have? What kind of salary you're drawing? How much time have you invested? For example, if I switch my job and I'm a salaried individual, I need to have 6 months in that company in order to apply for a mortgage and get a decent amount,
All right.
right?
All right. Okay. Since we talked pretty much about how to make investment, about the mortgage, about the leveraging, you being a very seasoned expert on basically this real estate industry, in the real estate industry, can you tell the young aspirants, consultants, what they need to see before getting any client? Because that's important.
Before getting any client or after getting the client?
Before, like, you talk about you need to see the history, you need to see all the
That's
documents.
after you get the client.
Okay.
That's after the client reaches to you.
Yeah,
So before
potential
converting-
client. Yeah,
potential
before.
client.
Yeah.
Okay. So do your due diligence
Mm-hmm.
on a real estate firm, like place where I am. I would say get a client. If somebody
Okay.
approaches you, run them through AML process.
All right.
It's very important these days.
Can you tell what AML process?
Anti-money laundering system. Now
Okay.
there are softwares involved.
Mm-hmm.
There are softwares present. If they have been promulgated and they have been backed by Dubai government, by DLD, by RERA, there are laws and regulations that you have to follow. Run their names. See what kind of risk exposure they have.
Okay.
If they are PEP, politically exposed personnel, see what kind of exposure they have. And at times, if their name is on a suspect list, so you have the US database, you have the EU database, you have the Interpol database, you have UAE's and GCC's own database, and everything is linked through that software. It's you have to put the person's name before you start selling them anything.
So this is basically the $1 million question, because there are so many real estate consultants in the market and they need guidance as well.
So the moment somebody approaches you, ask for their credentials. Take their name, at least have their name available with you. If you have their name, pass them through the system. When you put a name in that system, it will tell you, okay, based on that name, this is the exposure. And people can have similar names, and then you can have detailed structured study done on that. You can ask for their passport copy and you run that passport number and you run. I'm not trying to scare the investors or anybody, but there's a process and there's a
process.
procedure, and there's a reason why that process and procedure has been placed. People who are way more competent than us have designed those processes. They have access to inputs that we don't. And based on that input and based on the global scenario, they have designed those processes. Respect those individuals, respect those systems, and adhere by that.
Okay. There are so many people from all over the world contact the consultants for the information regarding any property. So how adequate it is for the consultant to ask for their passport copy before sharing any information?
Okay, this is for me a part of what I call a CBM,
What is CBM?
confidence building measures. So when you
Okay.
interact with somebody, for example, you approach me, Asim, I'm looking to invest. Okay, where are you from? How did you reach to us?
Hmm.
You must have, like, you know, that sort of conversation. You must have been running an ad, or somebody sees you on social media. I hope somebody sees us on social media and approaches us. A lot of people do now. So when you interact with them, you get to know their requirements. During that time, if at an appropriate time, ask them for their passport copy. So can I have a copy of your passport? So I run you through the system and I can see how can I help you. Now, if a person is not ready to share their passport copy with you,
Yeah,
do you think that person is ever going to buy a property from you?
definitely no. Because
So those are the steps that you take.
Hmm.
This is, and the first, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Can I have your passport copy? Doesn't work that way. I understand. But when you are interacting with that individual, during that interaction, before you registered them as a client,
potential client.
at this time, he is a potential client.
Yes.
Before you convert him into a client, you have to take the passport copy and run it through the system. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If the person is trusting you, is based on your experience, based on the interaction he has with you, based on your knowledge base, if he's comfortable, he will share. If he will not share, then that's the end of the story anyways. He's not going to buy anything. So why? So there's no point in taking that discussion any further. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to share my passport copy. Thank you. That's the process. I can't sell you anything unless I have that. Anybody who approaches me as a prospective client, we need to have a series of discussions, noting down their requirements. Once I note down their requirements, during that process, they also have to take you seriously. And one of the factors is by not on the first conversation anyways, that's not appropriate, I think. But you need to ask them for their passport copy. And you'll say, okay, I'm going to, even if you're contemplating the Mac and you've reached me and we have been having to and fro discussions for a week, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, a month. Need to have your passport copy so I can register you in my system, in my database, in the developer's database as well. That will show them your seriousness, your ethics, your values, and the professional way in which you're conducting yourself. If you're not asked for a passport copy, that's the first and foremost step. The client might also think that you're not serious about selling him anything, because otherwise you would have asked for it. Definitely not in the first conversation. So I would say this to all the prospective or the new fresh real estate professionals, that this confidence building steps and measures, you need to take them very seriously, because that is the difference between make and break of a seasoned professional.
So we talked a lot about the non-residents and the consultants. Now shifting towards the residents. How come mortgage can be taken by any employee, salary based, and by the company owner?
Okay, so now we've shifted focus on the residents.
Yes.
So the residents are broadly categorized into two categories. One is somebody who's salary based, and the second one is somebody who's self-employed.
Yes.
So now focus on the salary based. As I said, you have to have a certain amount of salary, and the bank will see the exposure you have. By exposure, I mean the liabilities you have. By liabilities, I mean the number of credit cards you have, the monthly salary that is coming to your account, the car loans that you may have, any other previous mortgages that you can have, your ACB report that you have. All those factors would dictate you getting a mortgage. Now, a very important point here is for mortgages. Anybody who's a resident and comes to me, I love this property, I'm going to buy this property, I need to close this, and I'm going to give a 10% down payment just to block that property. I advise them earnestly, hold on to their horses,
Okay.
get pre-approval first. Why? Because if you have given a 10% deposit, and God forbid anything does not measure up to the bank's requirements. Your
Okay.
ACV report is not good, your credit history is not good, or you just switch jobs and you've not passed 6 months there, then you might not get that mortgage. What will happen that the 10% booking amount or blocking amount that you've given will be forfeited by the seller. One very important factor.
Okay.
When you're going for mortgages, that's a separate discussion, but you need to be cognizant that if you are liable to get 80% or 75%, that 75% will depend on the bank valuation. That means if my property, for example, is 1 million and I'm planning to, okay, I'll have to pay 200,000 and 800,000 is going to be paid by the bank. The bank valuation report might not indicate the property to be 1 million. What if the bank says that this property is valued at 800,000? So you'll get, in that case, 80% of 800,000, not a million. And if the seller is selling that property for not less than a million, you will have to compensate for the difference. It's a very important point. People miss out on that. And a lot of consultants also miss out on that. Now, that takes care of the salaried employee. Now,
Okay.
talk about a company owner. So, for a company owner, a lot of consultants advise that, in all honesty, try and project yourself as a salary-based employee. Because you're drawing a salary, it has to be written in the MOA. Otherwise, the company documentation also has to be submitted. We'll have to see how much monthly salary you're getting, plus how much annual dividend you're getting. Base and what is written in the MOA of the company, how many partners are there, what is the risk factor of that company. So it becomes a bit more complicated.
Complicated.
Not too much complicated, but a bit more complicated.
It is not related with the transparency, right?
100% transparency, I don't think is a issue here.
Talking about some of the consultant suggest the investors or the residents that don't show your company account. You should get yourself as a salaried person.
You see, the process for a salaried person is a bit simpler. But if, for example, I show myself as a salaried person, and if my trade license goes there, and on the trade license I am the owner of the company, or I am the co-owner of a company, then that means that my exposure and my liability is there as well.
Yes.
So based on your exposure and your liabilities that you have, the risk assessment has to be done. So it can be done in a manner that, yes, you have a company, but you're drawing a monthly salary, and that has been going on for years. At times, you tend to pass off as a salary, but it depends on case to case. There's no cookie cutter answer for this. You will have to evaluate. A good financial consultant would sit with you. A good mortgage broker or a mortgage consultant would advise you which path to choose and where you will get, and remaining in the framework. Whatever we are discussing is not bypassing the framework. The legal and the banking framework has to be adhered to.
Dear audience, thank you so much for watching us. This whole discussion was very fruitful for the investors, for the non-residents, and for the young consultants as well. There are a lot of notes to be taken from this conversation. We'll have more conversation like this, more podcasts like this. We invite you to give your questions in the comments so we can incorporate, give us new topics. Tell us what do you want to know about the UAE real estate market. With this, I'm signing off. Thank you so much.